I have to admit, when I was looking at the synopsis for today's deep dive, I was ready to just write this off as, a gimmick.
Right.
We are diving into Onimai, I'm Now Your Sister, or Oni-chan wa Oshimai in the original Japanese. And the premise is, it's a lot.
It is a lot, but if you stop at the premise, you really miss why this series dominated the charts. We're looking at a manga by Nekotofu and the 2023 anime adaptation by Studio Bind.
Yeah, and our mission today is really twofold. First, we're going to unpack the overview of the work, the whole story and premise. And then secondly, we will explain the appeal and why this specific slice of life series became such a massive fan favorite.
Exactly. The big takeaway here isn't just the gender swapping, it's the surprising depth of the production.
So let's start with that overview. For those of you unfamiliar with the setup, we follow Mahiro Oyama. He starts off as the textbook definition of a NEET, a shut-in gamer, totally detached from society.
And living completely in the shadow of his younger sister, Mihari. She's the high-achieving scientist genius of the family. The dynamic shifts instantly with what she calls the rehabilitation plan. Mihari basically slips Mahiro a drug she developed.
Which is wild.
Yeah, and he wakes up physically transformed into a middle school-aged girl.
Which sounds exactly like the setup for a cheap slapstick comedy. But looking at the source material, the story actually treats this transformation as a hard reset on his life.
Right, it's really a story about reintegration. The change forces Mahiro out of his room. He has to go to school. He has to interact with people.
He falls in with a whole group of friends. Kaede, Momiji, Asahi, and Mio.
The narrative uses the physical change to basically dismantle his social anxiety. He is learning how to be a person again, just in different packaging.
There's a specific plot point in the notes that highlights this arc, the hot springs incident.
Because the drug isn't permanent, right?
Exactly, it wears off. To stay in that female form, Mahiro needs periodic doses.
Right.
During a trip to the hot springs, the drug starts fading. He physically begins reverting to a male, and he's presented with this literal off-ramp to go back to his old life as a recluse. And he doesn't take it.
He doesn't. He chooses to take the drug again. That is a critical turning point. He isn't just a victim of an experiment anymore. He actively chooses this new identity because he values the connections he's made.
It's not about gender anymore. It's about choosing a version of himself that functions in the real world. So that emotional depth covers the story overview.
Yeah.
But now we really need to pivot to the second part of our agenda, the appeal.
Why it's so fun to watch.
Exactly. Because the production value is just absurdly high for a simple comedy.
That is the Studio Bind effect. These are the people behind Mushoku Tensei. This was actually Shingo Fuji's directorial debut, and he just went all out.
Reviews describe it as a festival of animation. And usually when people say great animation or sakuga, they mean big fight scenes, right? Explosions, beams of light.
Yeah, but here, that sakuga energy is applied to everyday movements, hair brushing, walking, just subtle facial expressions.
The character acting is incredibly fluid. It elevates the material from a standard comedy to something cinematic.
It's visual storytelling at its finest. And digging into the casting notes, there is a really wholesome story about the voice actors that adds to that charm.
Oh, right, the indie origins.
Yes, Onimai started as an indie project. The author, Nekotofu, produced an indie drama CD way before the anime was greenlit, hiring Marika Kono and Kaori Ishihara to voice the siblings.
And normally a big studio like Bind would just wipe the slate clean and hire their own A-list talent.
Exactly. But Nekotofu insisted on keeping the original indie cast to repay them for supporting the work early on. It gives the production a genuine heart.
You can really feel it in the performances. Now, we can't finish discussing the appeal without touching on the humor. Specifically, the Oyama is bad meme.
Oh man, yes, it's a perfect example of gap humor. You have Mahiro, who looks like a cute middle school girl, but completely retains the mind and interests of an adult male gamer.
So he ends up inadvertently charming all the boys in his class because he actually understands their obscure gaming references.
He speaks their language. The boys fall for her, thinking she is this dream girl who gets them, while Mahiro is literally just talking shop.
The phrase Oyama is bad became this viral shorthand for him being an unintentional heartbreaker.
It resonated enough to push the show to #1 in the winter 2023 rankings.
So you have a show that looks like a niche comedy, but delivers top-tier animation and a touching story about reintegration.
It really leaves you with a provocative question, though. Mahiro was a failure as a man, but flourished as a girl.
Right.
It makes you wonder, was the container holding him back, or did changing the outside just force him to unlock the person he was capable of being all along?
Definitely something for you to chew on today. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Onimai.